In Venezuela, the first group of migrants from the United States arrived on Monday night as part of the restart of the Back to the Homeland plan. U.S. President Donald Trump has again threatened to unleash hell on the Gaza Strip if Hamas doesn't know it resumes the release of Israeli hostages by February 15. And the Russian Defense Ministry report its force took out of operations the gas and energy complex used by Kiev for military activities. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. Now we will begin with the news. Stay with us. In Venezuela, the first group of migrants from the U.S. arrived on Monday night as part of the restart of the Back to the Homeland plan. Earlier on today, the authorities announced a resumption of the Conviasa airline flights from the U.S. under the Back to the Homeland plan, with the aim of returning nationals who have been victims of the Coyotes criminal networks of human traffickers led by the far-right extremists. The government will use national airplanes to bring back Venezuelans deported from the U.S. to take care of their dignity and human rights. Likewise, those accused by the U.S. government of being members of criminal gangs will be subject to a rigorous investigation.
Pero tenemos una noticia en caliente de última.
But we have some hot breaking news. No. Don't give me that fanfare. We are connected at this moment with the international airport of Maiquetía. Here, live and direct from the show Con Maduro Más, because today, Monday 10 of February precisely,
precisamente está llegando los dos aviones con nuestros migrantes.
The two planes with our migrants are arriving from Texas, United States of America. The first plane of the Venezuelan flagship airline Conviasa has just landed to bring this first group returning to Venezuela in a safe, loving and dignified manner, and resuming the plan back to the homeland. The plan to reunite the Venezuelan family in the new stage.
Para reunificar la familia venezolana a la nueva etapa.
Ecuador will return to the polls on April 13 to elect the country's president after neither of the two most voted candidates, Luisa González and Daniel Noboa, obtained a difference of +1 of the valid votes, nor the 4% with difference of 10 points over the second. Let's see more details.
Después de una jornada electoral extensa,
after a long election day, Ecuador is preparing for a second round of elections to be held on April 13th. This after the National Electoral Council confirmed on February 9th that the candidates with the highest scores, Luisa González and Daniel Noboa, did not obtain 40% with a difference of 10 points over the second to win in the first round.
For Pablo
Meriguet, political analyst, the results reflect the urgency of a change of mandate in the country. Otherwise, he indicates, the margin of difference in the tallies, which present less than 1 point of difference, should be greater.
I believe this is a result that few people expected. That is to say, such a radical polarization, a very strong polarization was expected. But it was not expected that both positions would agglutinate almost 89% of the votes. Nobody saw that coming. In fact, now it is almost vis-a-vis the two. In fact, there is less than a percentage point difference in the valid votes. And that showed that something has changed in the Ecuador.
¿Cuáles son los problemas que enfrentará el nuevo mandato?
But what are the problems that the new command will face? What changes should it implement? For citizens, one of the main problems that requires urgent attention is the security crisis, which according to figures from the National Police, violent deaths in January reached 750 cases. It is also important to note that, according to figures from the Ministry of the Interior, between January and December 15, 2024, an average of 19 people were murdered every day.
Fueron asesinadas en promedio cada día.
pueblo ecuatoriano ya debe darse cuenta que definitivamente
The Ecuadorian people must realize that we definitely have to look for economic development and educational preparation. In short,
todo la proporción educativa, en fin, porque qué feo.
because it is so ugly that people have to speak badly of Ecuador abroad, when Ecuador had a very specific name worldwide.
Un nombre muy específico a nivel mundial. A nivel mundial.
Because we were doing well, and now we have to hide in fear. What a shame.
Escondidas, con miedo, qué pena.
La crisis energética es otro de los principales.
The energy crisis is another of the main points to be faced, because this crisis has resulted in economic losses. For example, according to the productive sector, power outages generate around $4 billion in losses per month, while in the industrial sector alone, an estimated $20 million are lost every night of blackout.
Cada noche de apagón.
The new government would have to face many issues, such as insecurity, everything. The country is in pieces. The country needs a true leader to take the country forward.
Por lo que los ciudadanos se mantienen
Citizens remain expectant for the elections on April 13th, when Ecuador will elect the president for a period of 4 years, that is, until 2029.
Es decir, hasta 2029. Gabriela Mena,
In Guatemala, a Mayan collective has denounced the responsibility of industries with solid waste collected from the bottom of Lake Atitlan with the support of more than 50 divers.
More than
50 internationally renowned divers changed their mission of rescuing lives to face a new challenge, collecting solid waste at the bottom of Lake Atitlan in the department of Solola.
Today we are in this activity because we know that we also have to contribute to nature, so, I repeat, these are people who come today to donate their time.
Is an initiative of the Tazananya Collective from San Pedro La Laguna, Solola, which for more than a decade has fought against contamination, aimed at healing and rescuing Lake Atitlan.
There is environmental racism here because we, the indigenous women, the indigenous communities, end up picking up the waste. We end up depositing this garbage that the big industries have generated.
The leader's words are translated into numbers. The divers collected more than 1,500 pounds of waste, washed in by the rains from communities that do not have waste treatment plants.
We found a lot of non-recyclable material, iron, ferrous, and many tires, so that occupies a large amount of volume in hard plastic, pipes, elbows.
The sorting of this waste reflects the negative externalities of industries that do not calculate the harmful impacts of their products and packaging, suggests one of the villagers.
Everyone calculates their profits, calculates their labor, calculates their raw materials. Everything is calculated. But what they don't calculate is their solid waste.
On February 11, 2025, Governmental Agreement 164-2021 comes into effect, which requires the classification of solid waste at the national level, a practice that San Pedro Laguna implemented since 2016.
Santiago Botón, teleSUR, Guatemala.
Let's take a very first break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. For a third week in a row, the U.S. report another deadly plane crash. The collision of two commercial airlines in southwestern Arizona leaves one person dead and 4 injured. The accident occurred after an aircraft attacking Tulane at Scottsdale Airport collided with another aircraft on runway 21. One of the planes involved in the accidents belongs to the Vince Neil's singers of the hard rock band Motley Crue, who was not on the aircraft. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration announced that it will open an investigation to determine the cause of the accident. Once again, the Mexican government requests to add calmly in the face of the announcement by U.S. President Donald Trump to impose tariffs now on steel. Our correspondent Daniel Rosas with the details.
Calm in the face of the White House measures. This is the strategy to be followed by the Mexican government for the time being.
We found out the same from yesterday's publication in the media. Well, let's wait. It is as I say, calm on this. Let's wait to see if he announces something today, and from there we will take our definitions.
Mexican media echoed Trump's announcement as he flew on Sunday.
Today I'm simplifying our tariffs on steel and aluminum so that everyone can understand exactly what it means. It's 25% without exceptions or exemptions, and that's all countries, no matter where it comes from, all countries. If made in the United States, however, United States of America, there is no tariff, it's zero. So if it's made in the United States, there is no tariff. All you have to do is make it in the United States. We don't need it from another country.
The Nuevo Laredo Customs Brokers Association, responsible for 80% of North American trade treaty transactions, has called for unity in the face of the U.S. president's onslaught. The imposition of tariffs will affect Trump's allies and voters. In addition, the TMEC, which he himself negotiated, will be revised in 2026. And that is where Mexico should focus its strategies because the relocation of companies continues to be a competitive advantage for Mexico. The recent announcements made by the U.S. president could be part of a strategy known as flooding the zone. That is, bombarding with information to alter the reaction of the counterpart, explains this analyst.
What is the problem? We don't know which of these statements will be taken seriously or which ones will be followed up. It is not so much that it is just a strategy and should be dismissed, but the problem of this strategy of filling and stuffing with information. We don't know which one is true.
Mexican strategy may therefore be correct, he adds.
I think Claudia Sheinbaum's strategy is very good, in terms of a cool head, in terms of knowing strategically what needs to be done step by step.
Mexico is the third country from which the United States buys the most steel, after Canada and Brazil, with 12.2% of the annual total, according to data from the American Iron and Steel Institute.
Daniel Rosas, teleSUR, Ciudad de México.
As the trade war escalates, European Commission's President Ursula von der Leyen warns the U.S. that the Commission will respond to President Trump's tariff with firm and proportionate countermeasures. Von der Leyen accused the White House of imposing unjustified measures on the bloc and warned that they will not go unchallenged. The Commission President also said tariffs are bad for business and worse for consumers, so they will act to protect the economic interests of their businesses, their workers, and their consumers. Moving on, the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas postponed the release of Israeli detainees scheduled for the next Friday 15 due to the non-compliance with the terms of the ceasefire by Israel. The spokesman of the movement declared that the delivery of the detainees was postponed until the Zionist forces assume their commitments and compensate for the damage caused recently. Among violations committed by Israel, the spokesman highlighted delay in allowing the entry of Gazans north of the coastal enclave and the problems with the delivery of humanitarian aid. Meanwhile, delegations from both sides and mediating countries are in Qatar to begin official negotiations for the second phase of the agreement and a definitive ceasefire. U.S. President Donald Trump has again threatened to unleash hell on the Gaza Strip if Hamas does not resume the release of Israeli hostages by February 15. The president said that if Hamas does not resume the exchange of hostages for Palestinian prisoners by Saturday, all hell will break loose on the resistance movement in the Gaza Strip. Trump said if the movement does not comply with the release of the hostages, he will tell Israel to cancel the agreement and to do what it deems necessary without ruling out of possible U.S. involvement in the response to Hamas. Let's take our last break, but we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that its forces took out of the operation the Gaza and energy complex used by Kiev for military operations. Among targets hit were the military airfield and warehouses where drones are equipped and prepared. The operation was carried out using long-range precision weapons. The Defense Ministry added UFs provide support during the military action. On the Ukrainian side, Energy Minister German Galushenko confirmed that the Poltava oil and gas plant was damaged. Galushenko reported several areas without gas supply and no fatalities. UK farmers block streets with tractors around the nation's parliament in London to put pressure on Labour governments to reserve removal of inheritance tax exception. During the demonstration, the farmers carried banners with the phrase such as "Word on Farmers" and United Kingdom flags. Opposition leaders joined the demonstration against the tax, which will come into effect next year. The administration of the Prime Minister Keir Starmer had announced that in order to find new vital income, some farmers will no longer be exempted from the inheritance tax. For their part, farmers claim that peaceful protests will help to bring about a needed change for the citizens.
I don't want to see policy decisions mean that we have to sell our farm, which we care very deeply about, not just for financial reasons, but also for it's part of who we are, because the government's making a massive mistake that they will later come to regret when they realise the consequences of their decisions. So we don't want to let things get to that stage. We want to show them that we know what the impact of their policies is going to be, because they're going to be impacting us. And we want them to listen, because so far they're not listening. They're stubbornly refusing to listen to the people their policy is going to affect.
We have a voice, a loud voice, and I think the government are very clear they've woken a sleeping giant. We have to keep the pressure up, and that's what you're all doing here today. And if the government thinks we'll go away, they don't understand you, they don't understand farming, and they don't understand farmers.
On the other hand, farmers and ranchers in France are mobilizing to show their concern about the European Union's agreement with Mercosur, the fall in prices or the increase in production costs. Also, European farmers said they will face unfair competition from their less regular Latin American peers. They also insist that their conditions have worsened in the last year and warned that if there is no change, protests could intensify in the coming weeks.
The public authorities don't help us, the politicians don't help us, and our bosses don't listen to us either. That's why, after a while, we all joined the union together, because at some point we want to be heard and raise our real problems.
In Malaysia, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan met with Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim as part of his three-nation tour of Asia. During the meeting at the Putrajaya International Convention Center, Erdogan was condecorated with an honorary doctorate. During the ceremony, Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim praised Erdogan's leadership and expressed gratitude for his support during times of political adversity, describing him as a true friend. Erdogan reaffirmed Turkey's commitment to strengthening bilateral ties and cooperation with Malaysia, describing the country as a key strategic partner. The two leaders are expected to hold high-level talks to boost bilateral ties across all sectors and discuss the situation in Gaza. And we have come to the end of this brief from teleSUR English and from the south of Venezuela. Thank you for watching.